Good morning, afternoon, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, welcome. Today I'm enjoying being out and about, surrounded by birdsong, and I'm hoping that the river level will have dropped sufficiently after 3 storms tore their way across the UK in just one cold and bleak February week. First came Storm Dudley, and then Storm Eunice, and finally Storm Franklin. Here in West Yorkshire, Storm Eunice was probably the worst, with torrential downpours, some flooding, and wind gusts in excess of 100 miles an hour. I came here after Storm Eunice, but the river was still very unsafe. Storm Franklin didn't raise it quite as high as Eunice did, but it has stayed very high for days afterwards. The river level is finally falling. It's probably not quite low enough yet for easy access to where the river has cut into this old municipal dump site, but even though it will be much easier going tomorrow, somewhere between 30 and 80 centimetres lower, I'm aiming to try and waders to get there today. Apologies for the considerable extra noise that they add on top of the usual sounds of walking. What a difference 5 days makes. 120 little hours. I can already see that the path to the cliff face is gone. That's pretty standard after big storms. And there really doesn't look like there's a lot of the flat bits at the bottom above water today, so the productive areas will be limited to a strip between about 1.5 metres above and 30 centimetres below the current water level. Still powerful currents swirling, and the receding water has left a huge tangle of sticks, and unfortunately a lot of modern trash intertwined with it. I will fill up my bags on the way out with plastic. It is not much, but it's what I can do today. The clay layer is slippery, but a button that I hadn't seen. And what else might there be here? Some copper wire, highly corroded as almost all the metal is here. If there are any chemists watching, I'd be interested in ideas of how to turn verdigris back to pure copper, Japanese knotweed, edible invasive species, terrible for the local riverbanks. I see a bead, a tiny little red glass seed bead, and where there's one, there's often more, so do shout out if you can spot any. Oh no, I rolled the bead between my fingers, not very much pressure at all, I swear, and it has disintegrated. About 100 years in the ground, and I managed to accidentally destroy it in seconds. That's quite sad. River carved in here. The water came up to the line of little missing chunks. Might have been pushed up a bit here where this exposed soil is. 6 days since the highest water. Is that enough time for all these little sprouting plants to emerge? Especially given the cold. There has been snow. Oh, little lead toy. I think it might have been a lead soldier and horse, but there's no arms, no feet, no heads, no human torso. And not even an entire recognisable horse torso either. I think I might be wrong, but I don't know what else it might be. and where there's one piece of lead, there's usually more. First glass bottle stopper of the day, and it's a beauty. Hope I can get the rust staining off it. A lead tube, like a toothpaste tube, but hopefully not actually for toothpaste. Some copper or brass tube, most likely brass, part of gas tubing. Little wedge of lead. I'll be taking all the lead I can find today to stop it getting into the river, and because I kind of fancy doing a video of melting down 100 kilograms of lead into ingots before selling it onto a scrapyard. I could of course get a much higher price selling it on eBay to people wanting it for supposedly sporting purposes, but I don't really like the idea of it being made into shot and being used to kill birds. And I've just taken it out of a river. I don't really want it going back in as fishing weights either. Looks like something has scraped down this clay. Don't think it's the right shape, depth or pattern for boots, though the sideways one does suggest something alive. No footprints above, hopefully just falling debris. I guess a handle of something, quite ornate, not particularly to my taste. And that very much stuck. Sorry, it's not very dynamic footage, is it? Moving a few steps and stopping to pick up more lead. Not even very exciting lead. Not toys, just bits of wire shielding and caps and oddments. This looks interesting. A green wood piece that might be a little bridge and an upright pole driven into the clay. Would a river do this, or somebody trying to get past this sketchy section? Nothing of interest sticking out, so let's go. Oh, that's surprisingly deep. The clay is very soft and swallowing my boot. If I'd been wearing Wellington boots, I'd have just lost one. Easier going now. That colour stands out. Lovely little glass bead, like a berry, a poisonous one. I like it. It looks like there's 3 more beads here, quite stuck in. One out. A bit corroded, the surface peeling away. That one broke. I will try and get the 3rd one and see if there's any more with my claw tool, but first, another bead. Makes me wonder how they've gathered together. Did they go into the dump at the same time? All from one person's jewellery collection. And what is that? Elastic. About a century in the ground and still recognisable. Some lead. A bit of a glass A.S.M R. The ones I most commonly find are late Victorian uranium glass ones. This one looks younger. Some more lead. I'm fairly certain I'm going to be removing more than 5 kilograms of lead today. My record from here after a storm was 12. Don't think that many other people take the lead, unless it's toys. Ha, I recognise that bottle digger hole up there. I was here when the person was digging it. Where she stood is now gone. A fair-sized chunk that the river has taken this time, but nowhere near the biggest. Does seem to be a bead sort of a day. This one, I'm not a huge fan of this particular style of bead, but I do love the colour. This, I think, was part of a marble. I hope I find some more intact ones today, replace the ones I've lost. Lead toy wheel. Toys, coins, marbles, clay pipes, beads, and anything unusual or interesting. That's my wish list for today. And a wildlife sighting. Maybe one of the kingfishers that live on this river will flash across my vision today. Unusual bottle. Looks like a cross between a table vinegar and a perfume bottle. First one of this shape that I found. Lead pipe. I'll start a pile. Brass, something, might have been ornamental. A brooch maybe. I think I see a marble. Yes, clay marble. Not as pretty as glass, but I still like finding them. And lead, a toy. Looks like a little model bridge, maybe. This looks like a bike chain, but was there ever a bike chain made of brass? I've seen brass-coloured ones, but they were anodized to be that colour. A bottle stopper, ceramic, and quite rust-stained. Not sure I'll ever be able to get that off, but I will try. And what is this? Animal, vegetable or mineral sculpted for the top part? It does kind of remind me of the A.S.M.R two-headed dragon monster in the film Willow. A bit of wire and a big piece of lead, which is also possibly wire or old water pipe. I don't think that I found a lead button before. I do know they exist, so I think it's safe to say that that's what this is. And first-time finds are always welcome. Is that another bead? No. Curses. It's polystyrene. Several small spheres of it. I'll get what I can. Some enamel on brass. Was probably part of a compact. I think I can make out some floral pattern beneath the dirt. Dropped it. Yay, think I've found the first-class marble for today. Candy stripe and very misshapen, but it's definitely glass, and I'm pretty sure it's a semi-melted marble. I'm happy with it. Chalky, dissolving whatever material it is, but a bead nonetheless. Can't see any more, yet. Lead-shielded copper wire. Some copper pipe, a small piece. Oh, I think I see another bead. Yes, almost sky blue milk glass, which is the first time I've found any milk glass bead, I think. Is that slag glass? Yes. The first time I came to this river and was on the other side, I thought some chunks of this were obsidian. They were more rounded and natural looking, but I've learned a lot in this hobby. Little brass gasket ring. Could probably turn it into a finger ring if I wanted to, so it won't go into the melt pile. That probably will. Some quite corroded copper wire. Either the melt pile or the verdigris collection to await chemical transformation. I've just found this, which might once have been a coin. Don't think there'll be any detail left beneath the corrosion. And this, which could probably still open the lock after a little cleaning, but the lock and the former owner of the key, who knew which lock it went to, are both probably long gone. Little Vic's Vapor Rub pot. Don't know why I keep picking these up. I have limited room left for bottles and jars, so I should leave the common ones if I can resist them. Sad to see so many trees fallen, and there are more that will fall this year. They were supposed to be guardians, binding the soil of the dump and stopping the onslaught of the river, but that's not going to work. It's a winding river, and no dump site's going to stop it from going where it wants to go. A little lens. Can't be sure what it's from. Oh my. I have found quite a few hand-forged copper square nails in recent outings, but this, I think, is the first one here. A relic much older than most of the man-made things in this dump site. And another bead. A bubbly texture and a nice colour. Oh, this saucer from a doll's tea set. Very clean and great condition. Perfect for holding little things like verdigris washer. And maybe not this, which is a very short fragment of a glass rod. Anything else? Anything else? No, not seeing anything. Oh well, onwards. This site was much easier to navigate before the fallen trees. Little brass lid off a tiny bottle, some of the glass still there, but I can remove it. Oh, wow. I think this is an inkwell. Not sure if the camera is seeing, but the lip goes up and over and down inside to about a third of the depth. I guess it probably would have sat in either a desk or a desk tidy. It feels much higher end than most of the inkwells I find. I'll take that too. Polystyrene bead. Not quite a full marble, but I might take it for craft purposes. Could become an eye in a model. Another ceramic bottle stopper with a bit of gilding. Wonder if it is technically possible to harvest the gold from gilding. This shot is undoubtedly underwhelming, but hunting and swooping over the paddock just beyond the trees, there is a rather magnificent red kite. I know this because I got a good view when I was changing the camera battery. It was much, much closer, performing a long banking turn over the river. Pretty sure I haven't seen one of these before today, and today, too, so far. Does anyone recognize it for what it once held? Nice green but screw top, and I don't want to deal with the residue still in there. How about this one? Little brown poison bottle. This one I think I'll take. I'll leave the aqua screw top ink bottle, got quite a few already, and I will most certainly be leaving that too. I know it's not a great option for it to go into the river, but taking on the responsibility of safely disposing of it at home is not a good option either. It's radium. Nasty stuff. Probably something to do with makeup going from the bottle it's in, a skin ointment or a nice glow-in-the-dark eyeshadow perhaps, that slowly poisoned whoever wore it with ionizing radiation. Touching the bottle and turning it over is as much as I'm comfortable doing. Don't want to carry it. Don't really want to leave it either, but really don't want to take it. Used to be 3 rows of trees up there. The floodwaters that carved this far into the cliff face, about 18 months ago now I think, were getting on for 1.5 times the water level of these recent storm floods. Ain't no bottle digger can shift as much dirt as a river can, and this river is determined to come this way. I don't necessarily think it'll bite further into the dump right here. The cuts from the recent floods are, well, there's one 30 metres downstream and one 20 metres upstream. It's not hitting the same spots each time. I have one like this already. Oh, see that? Little lead soldier, I think. Quite awkward. Sorry about that, little branches in the way. Anyway, the soldier, a rifle, a red coat and a helmet. Which I don't know, does that suggest more modern dress uniform than when the British Army stupidly wore red coats into battle? Little bit of brass. I think, actually, this might be the winder of a pocket watch beneath the corrosion. It's another square nail. Wonder if there's a few pockets of older stuff being unearthed, or if older things were cleared out of the shed and into the dump decades later. Think this is another metal patch. They seem to be at the downstream end of recent cuts that the river has made. Even though they're quite different densities, the lead and the copper seem to bunch up in tight little groups, and the iron is just all over the place. The leg of a lead, Native American I think, would have been kneeling, ready to fire an arrow from a bow. Down here we've got copper wire. Brass and iron together in what I think was part of a small alarm clock. Some brass, edging for something, don't know what. Solid brass anyway. A little bit of wire, a little bit of lead. Back down in the water, more lead. Oh, does seem to be a day for finding some first-time finds, and then finding a second one. Only the second intact lead button I think I've ever found. Not particularly exciting beyond the synchronicity of it, but I'll take it. Copper. Lead. Lead part of an old battery. Lots of small bits of lead. Please don't worry, I rinse my hands off thoroughly after every bunch of lead I touch. That's an oddity. Looks, feels like maybe a knife sharpening stone, but shape-wise I'd think no. Nor roofline capping slate, they're not flat-backed. Does anyone recognise what this is? I don't think I have a use for it, so I'll leave it and look for something else. Down in the water there's a little brown bottle. It's a Milton disinfectant bottle, quite common. Copper wire, never interesting but always welcome. I see something. I'll go slowly, might be other things on the way to it. It's a little lead ball. I'm hoping it might be a musket ball. If so, it'll be the first one I've ever found. The fact that this one is two halves and not very well aligned gives me doubt, but it could be a casting error rejected for shooting. I don't know enough about musket balls to say for sure. I do know that this teaspoon-shaped thing is quite likely a teaspoon, and that's probably copper wire. And some more. I love finding lenses like this. I have half a dozen now red like this, and aside from the eyes of terrible model monsters, I haven't got any other ideas of what I could do with them. Suggestions are welcome. Little lead soldier lying where he fell. Still has his head, his feet, and just missing the end of his gun. He's doing quite well, all things considered. And now I'm going to wade into the deep, dark, mysterious water. Mysterious only in that I can't see the bottom, but I can guess what I'm walking into. It looks like the river has taken the stone layer and a scoop out of the clay layer. Just above waist depth here. Oh wow, I didn't expect there to be oil in the clay. Wonder if that could be from the dump site, or if it predates the whole hillside. I know there is oil under the Pennine Hill Range, which is where I am, and some of it does flow out naturally in some places, so it could have been deposited in the alluvial sediment when this winding river last wound over this way. I've not brought a bag across this gap, couldn't carry one above the water and carry the camera, so it's going to be pockets and hands and any container I find over here for the way back. Lead toy train, I think. Lead alloy anyway, might be pewter, and it's broken and falling apart, and it's going to be nigh on impossible to clean, but it would have been an amazing find if it was in restorable condition. Some more of that oil. I'm sad to have disturbed it. Wish there was something I could do about it. Cinnamon. Essence of. Concentrated medicinal essence of cinnamon. It is a medicinal bark, slightly anti-inflammatory and antitussive, which means it eases coughs. So, cough medicine. I like it, and I'll take it. I'll also take this bit of a fork, and this blight of a waterways polystyrene. Not sure how I'll take it yet. Part of an old gas or paraffin lamp. Dependence. That's a surprising word, but might be enough of a clue to find out what lamp it's from or the maker. I've just found this great little toy car, and might actually be restorable. Not really by me, at least not without learning a lot of new skills. Maybe one day. Oh, there's also a dog. And where you find two cute lead toys, there's a fairly high chance of finding more, so I shall hunt this area, a few meters in each direction. Just a bit of shapeless lead. And... aha! Another soldier, and on a horse this time. I wonder if there ever will be a time that toy makers stop making toys and games to do with war. Cow. I had some farm animal toys when I was a child. I admit that though I love animals dearly, I didn't much like those toys. Much preferred toy cars. And yes, I admit, toy guns. Huh, that's surprising. I thought it was something like a little ceramic paint tray from a watercolour set, and instead it's a bead, from a bracelet I reckon. First one like this that I found, which would have been strung on 2 threads. Oh, wow, that's a little beauty of a poison bottle, intact. Yes. And it is my very first triangular cobalt blue poison bottle. I have found triangular ones before in aqua-coloured glass, in a fair number of cobalt blue bottles. There's another one just up the hill, a milk of magnesia, but that is common, and this is not. It does have some glass thickness, but it's my first such bottle, and as such I don't care at all. My first full cod bottle has cracks and a slightly melted top. It still means more to me than either of the 2 I've found since. This, I think, will be my bag going back across the deep wading bit. As long as I don't totally overfill it, it should float a bit when needed. Mud. And mud-coloured, but a lead soldier, and he might be the most interesting of the lead here. It seems to be bits of old battery. Some verdigris escaping my fingers. Got it. No idea what it was. This bit got away. And that's a nice aqua-coloured glass bottle stopper. Plain. I like it. Spoon. Well, most of a spoon. I don't know why I love finding spoons so much. It might have something to do with a very silly cartoon I used to watch, The Tick, an amiable superhero lacking much intelligence and common sense, whose battle cry was spoon. I shudder to think that overhang up there, I kinda stood on it earlier. I'm going to try and remember that any time I come again, and keep well back from the edge. Ah yes, do I want this bottle? No, I like the colour, but I think really the only reason that got me to turn around for it was the idea, however wrong it might be, that thumbnails with a nice array of bottles this colour in warm windowsill light possibly do better. I know my thumbnail game is far below par in general, but do you reckon there's something in that? A big chunk of slag glass, and nothing much else. When the water drops another 60 centimetres or so, then maybe. This is a place I would expect the possibility of finding a marble, or even two. Still, this little spot between thorn bushes seems to have been shifted around a bit by the river, so there should be something to find. Thought it might be a tiny bottle sticking out, but it's a vial. A common find, and one I haven't really got a use for. Don't need a use for some things, bottle stoppers being just fun to find. This one has a bubble in it. Not sure if I've found one quite like it before. Another overhang, and this poor tree has been in this precarious position for several years now. I recognise it because, well, I took note soon after I started coming here for filming, and this tree has the power lines going directly overhead, and so, looking from here, I can see just how far the river has moved since I first came. The centre current is now a few metres further this way, and the river as a whole has carved out maybe 5 metres at the most carved out point. Looks like it might be an all-over iridescence on this humble paste pot. Yes, that's a nice one. I'll take it for Caroline. Climbing up this in waders is clumsier, less elegant than in Wellington boots, and I don't think there's much up here worth climbing for. It's not had any new movement for a while. Never know though. Here I put down a pile of stuff. We've got the Starfind cobalt blue poison bottle, and a second lead cow, which I'm not actually pointing the camera at, am I? Anyway, the point is, I put all this down here and didn't notice this. Large copper or brass disc feels very much like either a coin or a medal, and there is the ghost of details beneath the verdigris. I think I can see a figure and some writing. Whether or not there is any detail remaining remains to be seen. It is often the case that the verdigris retains the basic shape of the metal it once was, and is no longer. Unusual little cup. Anyway, if I miss things where I've put things down, I shall have to check everywhere I've made a pile on the way back, and under the piles too. I caught sight of a glass bottle stopper and I've lost it. It was somewhere in this general direction. Lower down, no. Middle. Not seeing it. So very, very obvious when I finally spot it. And it is quite a nice one. So I've made it back past the major wading bit. I left the bag right here, and just over here, I don't know how I missed it really, it's obvious to me what it is. But is it intact? we shall see. It's looking good. And it is. No chips that I can see, no obvious cracks. Probably some glass sickness as blights most of the bottles here, but still probably the best condition of all three of this style of baby feeding bottles that I've ever found. And it's not the murder bottle style, which I've found several times, but just didn't really want to take. This I'm happy to take. Another spot where I spent a good few minutes looking between these two fallen trees, and I left my rucksack here, but I somehow missed this bottle, the third of this strange and squat style, not particularly appealing, and of course the pipe bowl. I wonder now if anyone was shouting at me when I panned over it or almost trod on it and somehow didn't spot it, even though it is very obvious. I do know that I am not particularly tuned to finding clay pipes like, say, Nicola White is. When I was here with her about 2 years ago now, she found several that I missed by inches. Oh, sorry, I was just about to switch the camera off and I spotted that, another pipe bowl. It looks like it is decorated. Now that is a nice one. It has the Celtic harp and a clover leaf. First of its design that I've found. I like it. I came over this way because I spotted some lead piping, and then I spotted this. I think it's basically the same, minus a few legs, as the one I found earlier. Getting quite the collection now, and mustn't forget the pipe. Again, I shall have to put the camera away to safely traverse this section, and that I think is likely all the finds that I'm going to make here today. This site of human error right in the path of nature has been brilliant for mudlarkers and quite bad for the environment. And almost every time that I've headed towards doing a little kindness for the river ecosystem, I've been pleasantly surprised with cool little finds that I wouldn't otherwise have found, and it has been fun. Just stopping on the way to appreciate the beauty of the day. Roundup time. I was shocked when I looked at my content list and saw that it's been a year and 2 months since I've released a video from that site. I have filmed several, they're still in the stack, jostling for position, and I will get them out eventually. This one jumped right to the head of the queue because I wanted it to, and I don't want all of my videos to be getting old by the time I release them. So some will queue jump, especially now I have a drone to add interesting perspectives. And the drone, I haven't actually taken it out yet. The weather hasn't been great, and I'm practicing first on a £30 indoor drone that does have most of the same manoeuvrability as the expensive drone, but doesn't film or follow or allow pre-programmed routes, and it doesn't matter when I inevitably crash it. I will get the drone out for a fly soonish, and the resulting video will jump most of the queue. It was a lot of fun to be back on that site, and the first back on it after the high water. I think I'm allowed to take a little delight in that, because even though I took a fair number of fun finds, depriving other mudlarkers of a chance of finding them, there will have been more, a lot more things to find the next day, when the water was about 70 centimetres lower. Also, I'll have missed a lot of things. The reasons I did not go the next day too are numerous. I was tired, and I wasn't feeling all that sociable. It was a Saturday, and Saturdays can feel a little bit crowded there. And a small but noble part of me wanted other people to have a chance at finding things too. It was once the place I filmed at most, and now the opportunities are few, only after floods, and if I'm energetic enough to re-explore the entire riverside, seeing how it's changed and what new possibilities might have opened up, I think I'll try to do that once a year, around the time that the wild garlic is flowering. And now the finds. Only a few pieces of pottery on this outing, a red tile that I just thought would be a nice coaster on my craft table. I have a similar one in my soldering kit as a heat-resistant plate on which to do things, and a little head off a figurine, which I did catch on film for finding of it, but had to cut it because the surrounding footage was bad. I found a nice array of bottle stoppers. The glass ones will go into a very large jar that I found on another mudlarking outing with a string of LEDs. I think that'll be a good way of displaying both the jar and the bottle stoppers. I found 3 pipe bowls and, strangely, no pipe stem. 2 of the pipe bowls are made for the Irish market, so quite possibly, even probably, they were smoked by navvies, itinerant Irish workers as they built the infrastructure of the UK. I found 3 3/4 of a marble, always fun to find, though I don't think any of these will make it into my marble jar, which, like the bottle stopper one, has LEDs in it and sits on the windowsill. 9 beads, which I think might be a record for me, though they are not all in good condition, and one actually split in half somewhere between the dump site and here. Oh well. A doll's arm that needs a bit more cleaning before ultimately I put it in a box, awaiting the next time I see Mudlarking with kitten caboodlers, which you never know, might be down near where they are. Nothing planned as yet though. In the bottles and jars, there's 4 I'm really happy about, in spite of their shortcomings. There's the Ideal Feeder baby bottle, which has glass sickness. I have tried attacking it with muriatic acid, but I don't think the masonry cleaner I've got contains a high enough concentration, maybe 10% when I need 50 plus. The little heavy glass, maybe even lead glass inkwell, which is impossible to clean under the rim on the inside, but is still the first of its kind that I found, and in otherwise great condition. The cobalt blue triangular poison bottle, another first of its kind for me, and again afflicted with glass sickness. I don't really mind, but if I do find an effective and cost-effective way of removing glass sickness, then this will be a prime candidate. And the paste pot. I don't usually rhapsodize about the humble paste pot, but this one has an all-over and very even iridescence, which is caused by glass sickness, but the sickness turned it pretty. It's not something I'll be keeping long term. I'm going to give it to my friend Caroline of Let's Go with the Johnsons for a craft project she wants to do. Now for lead things. It is quite fun finding lead toys, even though it is quite sad to think about the poisoning from this toxic material that almost certainly occurred. I think my favourite is the little dog, though the car is also a strong contender. I'm still unsure about this lead ball. It does have the clipping mark consistent with a musket ball, but if so, it would have been a reject, as the 2 halves of the mould were not aligned, and wouldn't rejects have simply been melted down again and recast? There was a further 6.5 kilograms of lead that I removed that day. There will have been more below the waterline that I missed, but I do know of at least one other mudlarker who goes there and takes it. I probably will go back sometime in the spring, and any I find then I will take. I didn't find all that much copper and brass this trip, but that copper plate at the back didn't make it into the film, but it's thick and heavy, a nice piece of scrap. Might have to break it up to go in the crucible, but I'm glad I found it. If anyone does have any suggestions for how to turn all that greeny blue stuff back into copper, I'd love to hear. The simpler the better. I'm not really set up to do much chemistry. I did, as gently as I could, attempt to clean up the coin or medal, but a part of it fell off easily, and there is remaining a centre of viable copper, but the corrosion dug too deep and left nothing of the details. That's quite sad. I shall never know quite what it was. That is for finds, and now for thanks. As ever, I am truly grateful for the generosity that flows my way, so a big thank you to the kind people who've donated through Ko-fi. It really makes a huge difference for me. A big thank you to Louise Guerin, who very kindly bought some ingredients for resin craft projects from my Amazon wishlist. It's not the first time she supported me. She's bought resin project materials before, and some heat-resistant gloves for my forge after I accidentally set fire to my last pair while wearing them. These acrylic sheets and these resin dyes are both key ingredients for one of the craft projects I mentioned at the end of my last video. I hope that it will go well enough to show people. I'm going to start work on it sometime this week. Thank you so much, Louise. And finally, a big thank you to everyone who's watched, liked, disliked, commented on, shared my videos. It all helps. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, and if you'd like to, then any show of appreciation is very much appreciated. I hope that you're all keeping safe and well, looking after yourself and loved ones as best you can. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.